people in the diaspora. One obvious thing, for instance, would be to enable them to have the right to vote in the diaspora.
The different implementation agencies and institutions, the Ghana Immigration Service, Ghana Statistical Service, Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, Diaspora Office under the Office of the President and others presented an overview, outcomes and way forward in managing migration issues. Some stakeholders at the second biannual meeting called for synergy among state institutions to improve the effectiveness of migration program implementation in the country.
This platform will provide us the possibility to improve on migration governance in Ghana, especially at a time that various institutions are making efforts at implementing the national migration policy as well as the global compact for migration. The success of this initiative is proof of the power of collaborations in fostering development, and it is imperative that we continue to partner to spur investment in migration management.
The Chief of Missions at the International Organization on Migration, IOM, Madam Abibatu, said data is key to formulating and implementing migration policies, and the platform will strengthen institutions on effective data management.
It is important to note that we have only 10 years left to achieve the SDGs, with many calling this the decade of action, particularly 10.7 to facilitate orderly, safe, regular and responsible migration and mobility of people, including through the implementation of planned and well-managed migration policy.
The initiative Migration Coordination Platform consists of international development partners and multilateral agencies in Ghana, being the International Organization on Migration, GIZ, European Union Delegation and the International Center for Migration Policy Development.
8 African countries and 14 European counterparts are meeting in Accra to discuss how to upskill the private sector participation and the use of technology and innovation in promoting food security.
Being done in collaboration with the long-term European-Africa Partnership for Food and Nutrition Security and Sustainable Agriculture. It is a platform for the efficient implementation of AU-EU research innovation that seeks to improve on the effectiveness of food and nutrition security. At a 2-day workshop that seeks to provide knowledge-based information and contribution to the formulation and implementation of policies for socio-economic development based on science, technology and innovation. The Director General of CSIR Ghana, Professor Paul called for approach in improving food security in West Africa, including Ghana.
The Plant Genetic Resources Research Institute is actively involved in the identification, characterization, and conservation of our plant genetic resources in this country. And that also includes the characterization and conservation of crop relatives, so that in the future, when we are bombarded by climate change negative impacts, like flood, drought, pests and diseases, we can always go to our store of genetic resources and pool resources for crop improvement.
Long-term Euro-Africa Partnership for Food and Nutrition Security and Sustainable Agriculture for NSSA Work Package 2 co-leader, CSIR Stepri Ghana, Dr. Rose Omari, called for the involvement of private sector in the fight for food security.
It has always been a challenge working with the private sector. It has been very, very minimal, especially in research and innovation, either the funding aspect of it, or even contributing to the research activity, or even using the end products that we come up with. Scaling up also become a challenge, so that wider, users can use it, so it becomes a challenge. And we have realized that this is largely due to poor communication strategies.
Mr. Stefan Hafner, the Work Package 2 leader for LEAP and FNSSA, who joined via Zoom, called for the establishment of a collective alliance and different decision makers in the food value chain in building cluster hubs and develop infrastructures that will support the private sector. A representative from the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Julius Bradford Lamptey, says industry is ready to provide support to the agriculture value chain in complementing government's efforts to enhance food security.
Going by the 1-to-1F, there is a need to have a comprehensive approach where we can support the agribusiness sector such that they will feed into industries and also manufacturing. And so we saw the need that we have to follow the path of agricultural value chain mapping, diagnostics, and also development.
The 4-year program will end in October this year.
It's barely a day for journalists in the country to go to the polls to elect national officers of the Ghana Journalists Association, GJA. Since its formation in 1949, the GJA has never had a high-staked electioneering like the current one. The association has had a turbulent ride ahead of the vote on Friday, from being obstructed with an injunction to the resignation of the chairman of the GJA Elections Committee. Earlier, the chairman of the National Media Commission, NMC, Mr. Yao Buedra-Ebuafo, spoke to us about the elections on phone. Here are excerpts.
Journalists are going to the polls tomorrow. Why do you think the stake had been so high this time round?
It is also because of the lapse of time. You know, this election should have been held in 2020. So it is 2 years late. And these delays are unnecessary, and these delays have triggered all the disputes about the voters register and all that. Had the elections been held, originally before 2020, when it was due, maybe we could have avoided all these tensions and the interest groups. And the other thing is that, when this thing happens and there is a lapse, all kinds of interests emerge and they intrude into the system. And the GJ election itself also has become a victim of the politics of our country.
The issue about bloated register, it's been from our national elections and now eating into our own association's elections. What do you think about that?
Because the association has not been able to faithfully keep records. Because the other time I was telling them, I do not understand why they cannot digitize, the register, so that people would know. For instance, the Ghana Bar Association, since its inception, everybody who has ever been called to the bar, when you open the register, everybody's name is there. And so it does not give any doubt as to who registered when and how and all that, And so, that is part of the difficulties that we face. That, we, as a group of people who demand openness from everybody, there's lack of openness with our own register. When was the register compiled? And then the other thing is also is this. Who for now, because we are a member of the International Federation of Journalists, the IFJ look at it that anybody who works within the media environment is qualified as a media person. And so somebody is a photographer, what. Under the dispensation, all of them are qualified. And so if people are working in the media environment and it is part of the news production processes, somebody cannot say somewhere and say that this person is not a member or that person is not a member. The difficulty is when were the membership established and who accepted them. The individuals themselves could not have inserted their names into the register. It means that there's a process. It also means that dues might have been collected. Now, if you think that those people are not members, then return their dues to them. One of the things that the Constitution requires is that we should have been publishing our register annually. If the executive have been doing that, we will not be quarreling over who is it. Because if last year my name was on the register, and this year my name is on the register, you cannot say that that name has been smuggled into it, irrespective of where I am coming from.
What would be your expectation of the next president of the GJ and his team?
I do not want a dictator president, a president who will subvert the rest of the executive and impose his own ideas on the people. I want the executives to work as a team because each one of them is being voted on the trust that we as journalists have for them. I want them to work as a team. I want them to act with openness. I want them to act with fairness. And beyond all that, I want them to keep to their mandate. They should not overstay their tenure even by a day. They must make sure that all provisions in the Constitution are fulfilled. Any lacuna in the Constitution, let us work together and make the necessary amendments so that the Constitution can continue to serve the interests of the journalists for another generation.
And Dominic Logi, an aspiring GJ organizing secretary, joins me in the studio. Dominic, thank you for joining us in the studio. Tomorrow is going to be a very busy day for journalists across the country as we go to elect national officers. Why are the stakes so high this time around?
I think the stakes are high because, like for 2 years, we've been trying to organize this. And the last 2-3 weeks, we've been given the green light. So everybody is eager to see the next leadership of the association. I can also say that journalism has evolved. A lot of things have happened in this country. And, you know, we've also had the country dropping from the rankings. Right. And so people are looking up to the new crop of leaders to take the journalism in this country to the next level. And so they are looking for people who will do that. And the campaign, the way people are campaigning, crisscrossing the country, all are making it exciting for people to be part of it. And it is making it exciting, and a lot of people are interested in what is happening. And so that is why you can say that it is there's some hype when it comes to this year's election.
All this excitement and hypes has not been devoid of some setbacks as well. We had an injunction, and then barely 3 days to the elections, we had a resignation letter from Mr. Kwadwo Ado telling us for some personal reasons he's not going to be part of the elections. How far with that issue? I read a letter from the GJA president telling him to reconsider his decision and come back to work with the team. Has he done so, and what is the latest on that front?
As we speak, he's not accepted the letter written by the GJA president. He's stuck to his position that he's not going to work again as the chairman of the committee. And so presently we don't have a chairman for the election committee. This is the explanation. We have 2 committees working with the election.
Okay.
Let me say, we have the National Electoral Commission that is organizing the election. Then we have the GJA, its own election committee. It is the GJA's election committee that Mr. Ado chairs, and then he decided not to continue the work. There are 3, it's a 3-member committee. The other 2 are still working. And so as we speak, nobody has been appointed to chair that committee, but the other 2 members are working. And so we hope they are working with the Electoral Commission. And we hope by Friday everything will
and his absence is not going to affect the elections in any way?
What has been done, a lot of work have been done towards tomorrow's event, and so his absence will not affect the election because we've handed over everything to the National Electoral Commission to organize the election, and so they will take over and run affairs.
Okay. Another issue has been the lack of openness with the register. as a stance, you as a candidate,
yes.
Are you okay with the register we are working with tomorrow?
I am not entirely okay, because I had calls from colleagues, even GBC staff, who said their names are not in the register. Yesterday I was at the press center just to follow up on a particular case, and as I speak, the final list is out and the person's name is not in the list. And so I am not happy, because when you heard the NMC chairman, he talked about the fact that we have issues with record keeping. Why will it take us so why is it difficult for us to have a credible register of journalists in this country who are members of the association? It's because record keeping has been an issue.
Especially when they are dues paying members.
And for GBC, because previously we were paying a source, now the corporation is paying. And I personally took checks from GBC to the GJA, paying for staff. And so for staff who the corporation paid their fees and their names are not reflecting in the list, you can imagine, you get it. So I am also not happy about what is happening, but when it gets to some point, you just have to compromise and allow.
Yeah, right. So what is your team bringing on board?
I am going for the national organizer position. The organizer is very critical in organizing the activities of the GJA.
Right.
Without the organizer, a lot of things wouldn't happen the way you want it. You want somebody who nature has organized properly to organize the association.
Right.
And so I am coming in with the spirit of dedication. I am here to sacrifice to help the association. I am committed to ensuring that the things that journalists are yearning to see happen in this country. We know journalism is a profession that is a conscience of society, and we need to make it gel again. There are a lot of things that are drawing us back, that are making us not to work the way we should. We need to work at that. Talk about professionalism, talk about welfare, talk about the fact that there are journalists practicing in this country who are not members of the association.
Right.
It's because they felt they are not that welcome, because you get to some people speak with you and they feel not part of the association.
So you are going to run an open
and all-inclusive administration where people, everybody will be brought on board to ensure that we all put our heads together, work for the betterment of journalists in this country.
Thank you so much. We wish you and all the other aspirants the best of luck.
Thank you.
With the first person win tomorrow. And that was my colleague Dominic Claude. He is a staff of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, and he is vying for the position of the GJA Organizing Secretary. The editor-in-chief of gbcghanaonline.com of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, Ms. Rebecca Ekpe, is running for the position of Public Affairs Officer of the GJA in the upcoming elections. She was a guest on GBC Breakfast today and appealed to female journalists in the country to vote for her. She also encouraged women to seek and take up decision-making roles in society. Here are excerpts.
In Ghana now, we do know has a lot of concerns. I don't want to use challenges, but concerns. We do not want to sit here and pretend that everything is okay. No, that would be very wrong to think that. There is a lot wrong. We need to fix all that is wrong. At least if we are not able to fix all, we need to fix, quite a number of the things that we do have. We do expect that more people will join the Ghana Journalists Association. We have a lot of people. There's huge apathy. Huge apathy. Apathy, you know what happens if you do not give people space to speak. They either mute or they go berserk because they feel that, the association is not responding to their needs. Rebecca Ekpe is standing for Public Affairs. I've been working with all the regional executives of the GJA. It has to also do with approach. It has to do with skills. It has to do with strategizing. It has to do with ability to make things happen. If you know, I have been able to do a lot of things, not only for the Ghana Journalists Association, but for GBC.
Let's now focus on disaster prevention, as field exercises to test the country's level of readiness in the event of an earthquake has ended at locations near Community 18 of the Accra-Tema Motorway and La Trade Fair and Tema Fishing Harbour in Accra. The exercise was undertaken by the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, and its partners from the USA. Mr. Saji, Deputy Director General, NADMO, in charge of technical and reforms, joins us on phone to discuss the country's readiness to respond effectively in times of major earthquake. Good afternoon, sir, and thank you for joining us. To get Mr. Saji and to talk about Ghana's readiness in case of a disaster. And as we do so, let's take another story. A recycling plant is under construction to reduce environmental pollution caused by improper disposal of e-waste in the country. On a tour of the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission in Accra, the Minister for Environment, Science and Technology and Innovation, Dr. Kwekwe Fiye, asked contractors working on the recycling plant to expedite work to complete it on schedule. So ahead of the United Nations Ocean Conference scheduled for Portugal and Kenya, the workers of the organization have cleaned the beach around the Asha Fort in Jamestown, Accra. It is to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas and marine resources for sustainable development.
Largest and fastest growing industries. Coastal areas are a magnet to many tourists, and the draw is the landscape of cliffs and beaches. Although Ghana's eastern and western coastlines have some nice beaches, some of these white sand areas leave a sour taste and image on visitors. It was a Tuesday morning, and in Greater Accra, it is the day of rest for fishermen. So United Nations staff joined some fisher folks to clean the beach around the Asha Fort, one of Ghana's tourist sites. Walking along the coast of Jamestown, an Accra neighborhood, the very first thing that catches the eye of a visitor is a pile of rubbish. UN representative to Ghana, Mr. Charles Abani, was concerned about the increased use of plastics in the country.
The waste that we have in the world today is not the problem one person can solve. We need a partnership from global level through different national governments as well as community effort to actually clean up the ocean. Unless we do this, we're going to impact negatively the desire to have only a 1.5% increase in global temperatures.
Some fishmongers spoke to GBC News.
Our Zulayo ni nkronfo mpemfo o ma be kan ehun na ye siesie ya nti ye pa ye nwan mo mutu ediba wa se chose se ya o mu ya bola no a o mu chichiri no mu fan furu no mu da kogu bola tank mu.
And as they say, whatever is thrown into the sea comes back to you. Therefore, beach cleanups are vital to mitigate the problem caused by ocean debris and the danger that plastic pollution poses to marine life. For GBC News, Hega Owusu, Accra.
And on the health front, global pharmaceutical company AstraZeneca has donated prostate biopsy equipment to the Ministry of Health. This is to improve the diagnosis, experience and results of patients suffering from prostate cancer. The reusable prostate biopsy guns and disposable needles are estimated at $9,000 US.
Prostate cancer is the second most common cancer in men after skin cancers. The World Health Organization reports that 2,129 new cases of prostate cancer were reported in Ghana in 2020. This figure highlights the importance and urgency of ensuring that those at risk of prostate cancer have timely access to healthcare services such as appropriate diagnosis. The reusable prostate biopsy guns and disposable needles from AstraZeneca is timely as the country prepares to implement the national policy on non-communicable diseases. The items were presented by the country lead for AstraZeneca, Mr. Atiemu Mauli, and received by the Director for Medical and Dental at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Bafo Ewa. The equipment is expected to facilitate the early detection and diagnosis of prostate cancers in the country.
A new curriculum to augment the practical training of manpower for industry is being piloted by 2 technical universities in the country. The Kumasi Technical University, the second to pilot the curriculum, has officially signed a memorandum of understanding with the Design Technology Institute at a ceremony in Kumasi for the training of the university's automotive engineering students to be ready for the market right after school. The concept is designed to prepare the students to become job ready.
Quality Precision Curriculum is a new design concept that seeks to take engineering, technical and vocational skills students through practical training that meets today's industry needs. This curriculum was jointly designed by Design Technology Institute, DTI, and other key industry players. DTI is the first and only technical and engineering practically oriented production school in Africa. The Ho Technical University was the first public university to pilot it. Kumasi Technical University, KSTU, has now signed a memorandum of understanding with the DTI to adopt the concept and manual for piloting in the training of its engineering students. The founder and CEO of Design Technology Institute, Madam Constance Elizabeth Swanika, was hopeful that with the new training manual, the wide gap between industry and academia in human resource development would be effectively closed to reduce Ghana's unemployment situation.
We don't have a problem with the lack of jobs. We have jobs everywhere. But if we're able to train young people to do what industry demands are, then we'll be able to fill and meet the gaps. At the same time, industry also will tell you that, well, we're not a school. So we expect that when graduates come out, they know exactly what our expectations are. But we also cannot keep blaming educators when industry also would not play their part. And so our work here with you is to bring industry to your doorstep.
The Vice Chancellor of the KSTU, Professor Nanose Wusue-Chow, said all the TVET courses at the university will also sign up to the new training concept to enhance competency-based training.
It resonates with what our mandate is as an institution, namely to provide higher education in engineering, science, and technology-based disciplines, technical and vocational education and training, applied arts and related disciplines. We are also enjoined to use the competency-based and practice-oriented approach in teaching, organization, and delivery of courses, and develop solid linkages and collaboration with relevant industries, businesses, professional bodies, and technical experts in delivering our programs.
Quality Precision academic model has been accepted and adopted by the Ghana Standards Authority and now forms part of the Ghana Quality Standards Bill awaiting enactment by Parliament.
The North American branch of the Past Students Association of Keta Senior High Technical School, Keta School, has handed over an ultra-modern computer laboratory to its alma mater. Equipped with over 90 computers and other IT equipment, the laboratory is expected to enhance computer literacy for improved academic performance in the school.
Staff and students of Ketasco say the provision of the 90-seater ultra-modern ICT center is a welcome news as it will facilitate lifelong learning and complement their classroom experience. At a handing over ceremony, held at the school premises, the headmaster of Ketasco, Mr. Isaac Dijienyo, said the facility has come at an opportune time since ICT education has become vital in today's information age. He thanked the North American alumni for the kind gesture and called on others to emulate. A member of the Ketasco Alumni Association of North America, Professor John Dogbe, said the school, from a humble beginning, has carved a niche for itself, thus becoming a household name. He stressed that considering the school's exploits in the National Science and Maths Quiz competition, it was important for the students to make practical use of the opportunity created to improve their knowledge base in science and ICT. The provision of the ICT Center forms part of the preparations towards the climax of Ketasco's 70th anniversary, slated for February 2023. In an interview with GBC News, the Keta Municipal Director of Education, Mr. Gerhard Avujini, said the ICT Center will improve research work and academic performance in all subject areas. Some of the students showed gratitude for the gesture and appealed for more assistance.
It's been a while. When we go to the IT lab, we do patch with our colleagues, and some we don't even touch the mouse before we leave the IT center. We thank the North America alumni for bringing us this.
I'd like to call on the OCS Association to help us with our dining halls.
The event was attended by various alumni groups as well as revered chiefs, among other educational heads.
We take you to the Eastern region now, where this year's edition of the Kingsley Science and Maths Quiz has been launched at Kibi in the Buakwa South Municipal Directorate. The program forms part of interventions to enable students to develop critical thinking skills through the study of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. 76 schools, both public and private, will compete for the ultimate prize.
The Kingsley Science and Maths Quiz, which is an initiative of the Registrar of the Ghana Scholarship Secretariat, Dr. Kingsley Ajumai, enters its third in a series. At the launch, the Eastern Regional Director of Education, Mrs. Margaret Insian, said investment in education is most satisfying to the society because it goes a long way to help generations unborn. The Municipal Director of Education in the Buakwa South Municipal Directorate, Mr. Daniel Yeboah, welcomed the intervention and expressed gratitude for the initiative. The occasion was also used to launch the Kingsley Spelling Challenge, another initiative by Dr. Kingsley Ajumai. It will see 92 basic schools from both the private and public schools compete. Time with Kingsley is a coaching and mentorship program for students of senior high schools. The Registrar of the Ghana Scholarship Secretariat, Dr. Kingsley Ajumai, who is the brain behind all three initiatives, outlined the prizes at stake.
All schools will have a preparatory fee of 500 Ghana each. Contestants of the schools that make it to the final will each receive a laptop, a set of learning materials, and a cash prize. Their coaches will also go home with a laptop each. The winner for the Math and Science Quiz, each contestant will have 1,500 cedis, Ghana cedis each. If the school have 3,000 Ghana cedis, projects not exceeding 20,000 Ghana cedis will be undertaken in the school. Again, the three contestants, together with their coaches, will have an opportunity to have an education trip abroad.
In all, 176 schools are to benefit.
The Department of Social Welfare in the Okaikwe South sub-metro of the area is looking for the family of Francis Edu, believed to be 14 years. He was found on June 14, 2022 at the Kaneshi Takrade station. Anyone with details about his relatives or any family member who sees this announcement should kindly contact the department at Kaneshi, Okaikwe South sub-metro on 0245 007 148 or 0303 935 397 to help reunite Francis with his family. We go back to our earlier story on the simulation exercise by NADMO, where field exercises to test the country's level of readiness in the event of an earthquake has ended at locations near Community 18 off the Accra-Tema Motorway and La Trade Fair and Tema Fishing Harbour in Accra. The exercise was undertaken by the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, and its partners from the USA. Mr. Saji, Deputy Director General, NADMO, in charge of technical and reforms, joins us on the phone to discuss the country's readiness to respond effectively in times of major earthquake. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
What have been your observations so far?
Well, good afternoon to your cherished viewers too as well. We have had quite a fruitful exercise. As you indicated earlier, the exercise was to bring all the response agencies together to simulate an earthquake event. We all know as a country we have been experiencing some tremors, and the experts tell us that after 8 years of a major exercise, the likelihood of an event occurring again. The last recorded event of an earthquake was in 1939. So these tremors give an indication that there's a possibility of that happening. As a disaster management organization, our core mandate is to always stand ready to respond to any event. This exercise is to just test our readiness and also try and review our SOPs in readiness for an event. What has happened so far has been between the National Ambulance Service, the Ghana Fire Service, the Ghana Armed Forces, NADMO, the Ghana Health Service, and all other response agencies. We have done 4 simulation exercises. We had 2 in Tema, 1 on the motorway, and 1 at the trade fair. The one in Tema was to test the readiness of the ambulance service. The second one in Tema was to also test the readiness of the Ghana Police Service. The third one on the motorway was to also test the readiness of the Ghana Fire Service. And this morning, the exercise was to test the readiness of the Ghana Armed Forces, which was a search and rescue exercise that in the event of an earthquake, when structures are raised down and people are trapped under those structures, how do we search and rescue those people? So that is what we have done. And this has been supported by the U.S. Embassy and the North Dakota National Guard. So in brief, this is what has happened for the past 4 days.
So if I understand you clearly, this has been an exercise for response agencies. What about residents in these? What about residents in these flood-prone areas? What education are you also giving to them before the response agencies come in to rescue?
Well, normally that is ongoing. Before the rainy season, we have issued our warning. Daily, we put out the weather forecast, the possibility of rain in particular areas, and what the citizens in those areas should do to do that. And in the likely event that there is flood, our response teams have always been going out to assist and rescue victims. So that is ongoing. You know, for an earthquake event, what happens is that it triggers multiples of disasters. So when there is an earthquake, there can be fire, there can be chemical spillage, there can be even inundation from maybe a lake or a river. So an earthquake event can trigger a lot of other disasters, and that is what we are trying to do in testing our readiness in the likely event that such incidents will occur.
So even though you are doing this exercise for the response agencies, the unlikelihood event of also it happening in the communities, can we also have the simulation exercises for the residents to also test their level of preparedness in case it does actually happen?
Yes, because what happens normally in that situation is the management of communication and information flow. And it is also part of the exercise. And some of the community members in which we did the exercise participated either as role players or playing various roles in making the exercise end well.
Okay. Is this going to be an annual affair?
Interestingly, this is the second exercise we are conducting with the North Dakota National Guard and the American Air Force. We did one in 2018. Okay. And 4 years on, we are doing another one again. But this was actually triggered by the report of a committee His Excellency, the President, put together to come up with an earthquake preparedness plan. So they came out with a document we call Refocusing Response Agencies towards an earthquake event.
Right.
So we actually simulated based on that document.
So what key reforms will NADMO recommend to policymakers going forward?
Well, normally the issue of coordination, and it is the issue of making our bylaws work. Our various assemblies have all the laws on their books to keep us safe. Our difficulty as a country is how to follow these two laws, how to follow through these laws and implement them effectively. That has been our challenge. Example of building on waterways, the tilting, throwing rubbish into gutters, not building in low-lying areas. There are bylaws in every assembly regulating that.
We are grateful for your time,
sir. Our goal is to get everybody to be responsible for him or himself. And by so doing, we will all be responsible as a country.
Thank you so much, sir. And that has been Mr. Saji, Deputy Director General, NADMO, in charge of technical and reforms, who joined us on the country's preparedness towards an earthquake. And this is still News Hour live on GBC News and GTV. Esther Edu Ohumewu joins us shortly with the business segment. Please stay with us.
Hello, this is Business with me, Esther Edu Ohumewu. Ghana's economy grew by 3.3% in Q1 of 2022 compared to the same period in 2021, which stood at 3.6%. Releasing the provisional growth figures for the first quarter of this year, the government statistician, Professor Samuel Inim, said the agriculture sector recorded the highest growth of 5.6%.
Ghana Statistical Service said the real quarterly gross domestic product GDP growth rates, including oil and gas, was 3.3% year-on-year in the first quarter of 2022. In the same period of 2021, the growth was 3.6%. The government statistician, Professor Samuel Inim, said GDP growth rate without oil and gas for the first quarter of 2022 is 3.7%, which compares to the same period in 2021 with a growth rate of 5.3%.
From a non-oil perspective, the economy stood at 44.3 million Ghana cedis, indicating a non-oil GDP growth rate of 3.7%, indicating a drop from 5.3, as we did record that in the first quarter of 2021, relative to 3.7 in the first quarter of 2022. From a sector perspective, the economy was driven largely by the services sector, and this growth in the services sector was largely driven by information and communication, and the contribution of the services sector was 44.6%, followed by the industry sector, 32.5%, and the agriculture sector contributed 22.9% to the overall growth rate of 3.3 that we recorded in the first quarter of 2022.
He also mentioned that 7 subsectors led by professional, administrative and support service activities grew by negative 12.8%, and public administration, defense and social security grew by negative 9.8%. and therefore contracted. The remaining sectors that contracted during the period were real estate, which grew by -2.6%, construction by -2.6%, education by -2.0%, health and social work by -1.0%, and forestry and logging by -0.1%.
Virgin Estate developer Sukasa Properties has launched its affordable luxurious housing project in Accra. Sukasa is a fulfillment of a significant solution to Ghana's housing gap, which stands at 1.7 million. The company says the affordability of its housing units is in the quality, location and price of its 2, 3 and 4 bedroom units. A 2-bedroom house is starting at 360,000 cedis, way below the average market price of $150,000.
Sukasa's primary aim is to help government address the huge housing deficit of 85,000 units per annum. The property developer is doing so with the provision of affordable but luxurious housing units in gated communities. Phase 1 and 2 of Sukasa's housing project, located at East Legon Hills, are currently sold out, with Phase 3 situated at Ayimensa in the offing. Under the company's bouquet of offerings, a 2-bedroom house is going for 380,000 Ghana cedis. A 3-bedroom 1-story with a boys' quarters sells at 560,000 Ghana cedis, and a 4-bedroom 2-story sells at 840,000 Ghana cedis. Speaking at the commissioning of the project, Managing Director of the company, Mr. Abdul Rahman, noted that the company's focus is not on profit.
Our guaranteed policies of value for money is a core value that characterizes us as an organization, and not just with an outrageous profit-making motive, but equally coming on board as a relevant social actor and problem solver of the housing infrastructural deficit bedeviling the country and its socio-economic development agenda.
Sukasa's business model is such that potential property owners make an initial 25% deposit of the project cost before construction begins. Chief Executive of the company, Michael O. Granson in Japan, spoke about the unique selling points of the company.
We're selling in cedis, so you're not going to have to deal with inflation and fluctuations of the cedi versus dollar as much, since we're selling in cedis.
He spoke about measures put in place to mitigate the effect of rising building material prices on the project price.
We're stocking up, so we try to make sure that we have everything in bulk, so that we don't have to deal with that as much, first and foremost. But again, if prices change and we can't control it, that just is something that we're going to have to deal with.
In the medium to long term, Sukasa seeks to extend its affordable housing projects to other regions of the country and beyond.
And that's it for business. Thanks for watching.
And in news from some parts of the world,